Hello, my friends, and welcome back to, I believe it is episode 10 of Dead Knitter Society, the Knitting and Grieving podcast, where fiber arts and grief intersect. If you enjoy my podcast, please hit subscribe, like, all of those YouTube-y things. It has been a little while since I've last posted. I will definitely cop to the fire hose of intellectually damaging information about current events has certainly taken a toll on me. So I've limited kind of my online engagement and really curated the information that I'm kind of filtering in right now, while also taking daily actions so that I don't fall into a pit of despair. That's kind of, I think that right now, I feel like a lot of people are kind of navigating, how do I hold hope, but also acknowledge my feelings and take the actions that I can. I know that this is a knitting and grieving podcast, but my family, being I'm a first generation American, and my parents are both immigrants, and both families were profoundly affected by World War II and by the rise of fascism. And so generationally, there are, a lot of things that are coming up right now. So I really feel like, we have to find that balance of engaging in our democracy in a meaningful way, because democracy is a verb. It is an action. It is something that you have to do. It is like Tinkerbell. If you don't clap, she doesn't come back. So we all need to be clapping right now. Anyway, that was a little aside. I have also been doing so much procrastinating. I think I showed you guys the very beginning of my ranunculus last time, or maybe I hadn't even started it last time. I don't think I'd even started it, because I started this 8 days ago. Okay, so I finally started my ranunculus, y'all. So when I first tried to start this sweater, which is one of the most frequently knitted, always in the top 20 hot right now on Ravelry patterns, and for the longest time I couldn't understand why. I get it now. It's highly customizable. You can really use a wide variety of yarn weights. I'm using a DK, and you knit it with a large needle, so it knits up quickly, particularly with some of the slightly larger yarn. If you knit it with a lighter weight yarn, like a fingering weight, you get a very gauzy, open fabric. This is fairly open. It's very drapey. Let me show you my little baby. Guys, I've never knit a sweater this fast. So on New Year's night, I tried to cast on for this, doing a different cast on for the neck. This was still a new to me technique. It was the double loop cast on, which I did need to use. The pattern designer has good video tutorials. And then I also found, and I will link this person down below, Sun Dragon Fiber Arts has a great series on the ranunculus. She tells you every video by the pattern. If you're gonna knit it, we don't pirate patterns here in this corner of the internet, because that's wrong. That's my unpopular opinion, I guess, of the day. Don't steal people's work, their intellectual property. It's not good. But she does provide some guidance and some great video tutorials on some of the maybe new to you techniques. So this cast on was a new to me. So between those two video tutorials, I did figure it out. I will go back and I'm gonna try on the tubular cast on. Just I didn't do it this month or last month, and that's fine. So then you've had this really beautiful lacy yoke. I split for the sleeves. I don't love a super crop. I feel a little bit like Winnie the Pooh if things are too cropped. I know that they're in right now, but so I am going to knit just a little bit longer so that my armpit to hem length will be approximately 9.5 inches. That hits me right at my hip bone, which is more flattering to me than, say, like my natural waist. And then I think I am going to do the long sleeve option but I'm going to keep it a shorter long, like an elbow length. And I am going to do the I cord. There's a diagonal, like you can really do so much. And I'm considering adding this really pretty little lace detail down the outside of this sleeve here. I knit this in the Fiber Company's, I think it's pronounced Lume. It is a merino wool cotton linen silk blend. And at first, when I was trying to do that tubular cast on, I hated it. And I actually didn't really even love it when I first started casting on with the double loop cast on. But once I steam blocked the back before I got to this part, to vaguely check gauge. We won't talk about it. But I also wanted to see what happened to the fabric. And that's when I was like, oh, I love this. So I am really enjoying this. This is my dystopian post-apocalyptic knit, I guess. I really think I'm gonna knit more of these or look into more of this kind of like circular yoke lace detail because it's super flattering. And I'm loving this concept of just grab a big set of needles and whatever yarn and go. Because really you just decide what size you're knitting when you end up increasing for the sleeves. You just do a short series of raglan increases. But until you split for that, everybody's doing the same thing at the beginning. So you kind of get to avoid the gauge swatch, which was also appealing to me. We know how I feel about that. I'm still working on my Milton. No, not my Milton. Where did that come from? Milton is one of the ones that I'm frogging, which one day I'll make that video. One day, I promise. My Mabel sweater. Milton, Mabel. Honestly, y'all. I've never used barber cord before, and I kind of love it. It's a lot easier than doing scrap yarn to me. But yeah, so I've made good progress on this. I split for the sleeves, which I do think I showed you in episode 9. But now it's kind of that a little bit tedious. Okay, we're doing the same 4 rows for 10.5 inches. But it goes pretty quickly, and it's soothing and easy to memorize. So this is my like, bring it with me when I don't need to think real hard knit. And then I've been keeping the ranunculus at home. Even though now it's kind of into that same territory. Let's talk a little bit about grief. I had this realization probably a couple weeks ago now that, first of all, I keep having this like overarching, I don't believe that she's really gone, which is so dumb because I know that I literally watched the woman die. I know that she's gone. But sometimes I really feel like she's still with me. And one of those moments happened. I finally got up the cojones. I overeat up and I started correcting the dropped stitches that Mom, particularly the last night that Mom was really conscious with us. Was the day before she died, and we were, the family was around, and Mom was trying so hard to still work on this sweater for my nephew. And there were so many drop stitches, because she was kind of nodding off from the pain medication that she was on. And, so finally, my nephew's birthday is like in 9 days. And I really wanted to be able to give him this project for his birthday. So the other night I went through and I used, my little clasp stitch markers to kind of pick up any dropped stitches and did that repair. And one of the things that I realized, and now mind you, I watched my mother knit for probably thousands of hours. Like throughout my life, she was knitting. Throughout the last couple years where I was a primary caregiver for her and we would sit and knit together. That was like what we did. I never noticed that my mom was, if you're not a knitter, this might not make sense, But my mom was an Eastern knitter and I'm a Western knitter. Now we held our yarn in the same hand, right? Maybe someday I'll like do an overhead. I'll figure out how to hold my camera so it's overhead. But like, so I knit stitches with the leading leg of the stitch is in front, and then you kind of like go around the side. Mom always had her stitches oriented so that the back leg was in front. This is such a weird angle. So neither is wrong or right. It just, you have to, in order to have flat stitches and not twisted stitches, you have to resolve it. And I literally watched this woman knit for so many hours of my life, of her life, and I never realized that she knit differently than me. And so as I was going through and picking up these stitches and trying to, you know, make it so that I can turn this piece into something that my nephew can have and keep that his grandma made for him, it was almost like I was getting to learn something brand new about her, even though she's been gone for, you know, almost 8 months. And it felt like such a special thing to get to learn something about my mother's crafting life in the beyond, or while she's in the beyond. I don't know how to describe it. So that was really, I'm really glad that I finally did get up the nerve to do this. I have a pillow. So pretty much I'm just going to knit a few more rows in this pattern and then bind it off. I pulled out the other piece that she had finished, which was going to be the back of the sweater. And it's longer, it's slightly longer. Like she had gotten to about here on the front piece. That's a nice flap. So I ordered a 16 by 16 pillow insert and some snaps. And I'm not going to mess with buttonholes because this piece is longer, and I'm just going to sew on snaps and make a pillowcase cover. And so hopefully I will have this done. I'm going to finish knitting this piece. I'm going to block them and dry them this weekend. And then the pillow should arrive Tuesday. So I should have it sewn together and finished hopefully by next Friday. So hopefully I'll have a finished object to show y'all. I did notice, so another piece I pulled out. And so now that I've done this and I figured out how she knit, I really want to translate her patterns. I think that's where I'm going with this. So I pulled out this that she knit for my daughter, for Bells. And you can see she really liked this little simple 2 cable, like she used it, this one's slightly longer cable, but she loved that little cable repeat, like ribbed cabling just all over. It's really beautiful, it's subtle. And so I think I'm gonna start trying to write these up and then swatch her patterns to make sure that I'm actually writing the correct, like I actually am wondering if she did twist these stitches. Can't really tell. But I wanna try to like actually write her patterns out for posterity. That feels really special and lovely. So I think that's gonna be like, we're gonna start swatching out some of these patterns and trying to write them, like at least get the stitch patterns figured out, you know, over the next little while in all my copious spare time, because let me tell you, I have not done a lick of homework all week. So I'm also gonna be doing a lot of homework this week. Excuse me. So this was one that Mama made. The other thing that I kind of like realized, I love therapy, guys. I mean, I'm studying to be a social worker. I'm moving towards my licensed independent clinical social worker thing. I love therapy. I feel it's like dental hygiene. If you do it early and often, you can kind of prevent like needing to get big work done, so to speak, or at least know that it's coming and be able to mitigate it a little bit. And I was talking with my therapist, and I was trying to find a way to describe the way that my grief has changed, how it's evolved. And I kind of came down to this, like, I feel like, so I'll also preface this with today, I'm filming this on February 7th. My father-in-law has been dead for 11 years today. And my husband, I did not understand what it meant to lose a parent when his dad died. My grandfather had just passed away. And so I was grieving that. I was very close with my grandfather. But I did not understand that there is a difference. There's a difference in that grief. And there's a difference in what it does to your own self-concept. And it very much that it's not something that, it's a lot like childbirth. You cannot understand losing a parent, I don't think, until you have experienced it. You can maybe conceptualize it, but that visceral knowing. So I am starting to understand that I have a relationship with my grief. And it really feels a little bit like something that I have to parent. In the beginning, it was like a colicky baby. Those first 3 months, no amount of rocking, shushing, coddling, nothing made it stop screaming. But you still have to attend to it, right? You can't ignore it. And then as the months moved on, it became a little bit more like a tantruming toddler, like, okay, we've checked, you had a snack, you've had a nap, there's just this irrational, I don't have the skills for the independence that I want that toddlers have, and it's tugging on your shirt, but occasionally it's delightful and cute, and you can kind of do the reminiscing and the smiling a little bit. And then now that we passed 6 months in December and moving into that second half of the first year, it feels a little bit more adolescent or teenagery. Like the same, I don't have the skills to deal with the independence that I want. My grief wants to have a place. And there are moments where you're like, I can live with this. If you've ever parented a teenager, there are moments where you're like, I can live with this being that's in my life. And then there are other moments where you're like, where did that outburst come from? Where did that come from? Oh, okay. And you just kind of have to like hold steady. So I'm kind of, I will grieve my mother for the rest of my life. I think that is the price we pay to love people. But if I can conceptualize the state of being that is missing her as a relationship to cultivate. Sorry, I didn't mean to like get all woof. But if I can cultivate a relationship with her absence, it makes it feel more plausible, I guess, to continue to grieve her. So, that is what I have for you this week. So that's it for this week. I can't wait to see you back in the next episode. Go forward with love, my friends.